do you want to go out there? Do you want this opportunity? And I'm like, heck yeah, but I'm 217 pounds right now. They're like, you need to weigh 230 tomorrow. Media day is an absolute zoo. Like, it is all over the place. There's people holding up like adult film signs like, hey, read this real quick. And you like read it in your head and you're like, no, not a chance.
You're up 28-3 with a quarter and a half left, playing against, Tom Brady, so it's never really safe. But at that time frame, you got to be like, holy shit, I'm about to be a damn Super Bowl champ.
Hey, what's up, everyone? We're glad you're back for episode 8 here of Tailgate Talks, and we are going to try something different here. You guys know a lot of us as football players. Some of you guys know us from the community and all that as well. A little bit of our story growing up, but we think it's going to be a cool piece to get to know us on a deeper level. So Steven and I are not going to be interviewing anybody for this episode. We'll be interviewing ourselves. Yep. Steven is going to, as Coach Spurrier would say, try to pepper me with questions. So
yeah, it should be entertaining for sure. But like you said, everybody knows you and everybody knows me from the football and aspect of it. But yeah, we're going to kind of dive down into more of the childhood, the upbringing, and post football life and stuff like that. So it should be interesting for these people to kind of hear what we're about.
I mean, this is all the stuff that turned us into who we were on the football field and our why and all that, which is a big piece. So we've talked about it a bunch off air on, being a husband, father, and all that stuff. And it's, all that stuff's arguably more important than the football field stuff.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, actually. So yeah, man, I'm ready to jump right into it if you are.
Let's go.
All right, so obviously, Pat DiMarco from Orlando, right? Are you claim Orlando, or are you claiming
Altamont Springs? Everybody called it Altamont Springs. Yeah, I was actually down there this weekend.
Yeah, inducted to the High School Hall of Fame. I mean, that's pretty badass.
It was cool, especially man. It was
for your kids to see that as well. I mean, they had to be going nuts on that.
Yeah, but the coolest piece was Weston, who's 8. Well, basically, we walked into Tom Story Field, which was the high school, and he's like, "Oh wow, like you played here?" Like he's been in Williams-Brice, he's been up at New Era Field up in Buffalo, he's been to the Falcons, Georgia Dome, and the new stadium. He's like, "Oh, like he used to play in this stadium." And yeah, this was actually a big deal back when I was like 15, 16, 17, 18.
Yeah,
spoiled rotten.
Yeah. The stadiums get bigger, that's for sure. Well, yeah, man, kind of talk about that. Like, how'd that feel, and just kind of go through like being inducted into the High School Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so they just started doing it in 2018 was the first class they ever did. And my uncle Chris was actually in that class. And the AD who just retired last year was my like algebra teacher in high school. Her name is Jerry Kelly. She's been a family friend for a long time, but she basically said, I'm not going to retire until Pat DiMarco's in the Hall of Fame here at Lake Brantley. He retired the year before, but they honored her thoughts. And I got in this year. It was cool. The class was my defensive coordinator from high school, who's actually been a mentor and a big figure in my life for a long time, Brian Schaefer. Our 2006 football team, the state runner-up football team, we all got inducted together too. And then there was there were 3 lacrosse players, Jake and Jesse Bernhardt, who went on to play at Maryland, were all Americans, and a softball player who graduated after me. So really cool. I mean, procure some new experience, but honestly, like the weekend was kind of capped off with hanging out with my high school buddies. I mean, I haven't, every time I go down to Orlando to visit my parents, we're busy with Disney and chasing kids around. I was able to watch the game on Friday night with my high school teammates, catch up on a deeper level. Then we had the induction ceremony on Saturday, and then afterwards we all went out and had a big time, and it was just good to reminisce. And it was just way too long a time in between us hanging out and get back together. So that was like a big thing that fueled me. It was like, go back to your roots.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of everybody's thing. When you get around your high school buddies and people you haven't seen in forever, it's like, man, why does it take so long for us to actually, do this? I see a couple of my high school guys all the time, and it's kind of cool. But going up to South Carolina and seeing like Blake Mitchell and seeing these other guys, for that matter. I mean, just it's like why are we taking so long, between seeing each other? So yeah, I'm sure that was a pretty fun time. How are your parents doing?
They're good. Mom and dad are still down there in Altamont Springs. Still in the same house, and beauty of it is every time we go down to visit them, like the kids think we're going to Disney every time I go to Orlando to visit grandparents. And it's like, actually, we're just going like for 2 days this time. We're not going to spend 48 hours out of Disney. But we do try to do Disney once a year with them. Mom and dad come up to us a lot more than we go down to them. Just, traveling with young kids, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So they've been troopers. Mom and dad were a huge piece to the story too. I played everything growing up, all sports. I started soccer, and then went t-ball, basketball, and then football was the last sport really that was introduced to me. And that started in 3rd grade. And I actually dropped soccer.
No golf?
No.
Obviously with a professional athlete in the family.
Yeah. Golf, it was
with your uncle.
No, I drove the golf cart from my dad when he went to play with his buddies, and Mom was like, "Hey, if you're going to go golf, you got to take a kid." Kind of the same thing that we're going to be in here shortly with our kids' age. I didn't play. Golf was too slow at a young age, but started playing football in the 3rd grade. Actually dropped soccer to start playing football, and still played basketball and baseball all throughout elementary school, middle school, and even the first part of high school.
That's what I was going to ask. When did you kind of realize that football is kind of where I'm going to be succeeding at, as opposed to baseball and basketball?
Yeah, I looked at my dad and I was like, basketball's out of the picture. And then, I played varsity, so I was on the freshman. I played freshman baseball, freshman basketball, freshman football. I got called up the last game of my freshman year to play on the varsity team. Didn't play, but wore the jersey, got that whole experience. Went and played freshman basketball, played point guard, was a good player, but I was going to be 6'1" tops, and looking at dad, I'm like, I'm not going to get any faster. I'm not going to get that much taller. And then baseball, I batted 3rd or 4th in the team, played 3rd base, catcher, was a good baseball player. I actually didn't get called up freshman year to play varsity baseball, and we had 2 other kids on the team that did. And I thought I was good enough too, and I kind of put a little bit of a bad feeling in my mouth as the varsity baseball coach. But I still fully intended to play sophomore year. But after my sophomore high school football season, I started getting recruited. I was like 2nd or 3rd team all conference as a sophomore, and I was like, okay, got a couple of letters, started getting some interest. So I decided after football season to not play basketball or baseball, and I decided to run track and do weightlifting, just kind of stuff in the off season to still train and still hyper focus, but to still stay active.
Yeah, and that's something that I tell my son, and I tell really anybody that'll listen that plays quarterback. It's like, man, you guys got to play other sports. Like, you can't focus. You will get burnt the hell out if you keep playing the same sport year round. I know I did. I had to play basketball. If I didn't play basketball, I would have lost my freaking mind. So
shoot, we played intramural basketball in college because we needed something. We needed to change.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. We absolutely had to.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you make that decision. You're going to stick with football, and then you start getting some interest. Why South Carolina?
You had 4 stars. I had 2 stars. So the offers weren't coming in from everywhere. I got recruited by most of the local schools in the state of Florida: UCF, USF, FIU, FAU, Jacksonville, Stetson. All the smaller schools I had offers from. But I think my story. Most people know my story. Both my parents went to the University of Florida. I probably went to 3 or 4 Gator games a year up in Gainesville. My grandparents, my mom's from there. She went to Buell's High School in Gainesville. My mom's dad, Wayne Floyd, was the AD at PK Young, another high school there, but he played football at Troy and then GA'd at Alabama and kind of like went the coaching tree, coached high school football, ended up becoming the AD there in Gainesville. But we would go up. I mean, I would play Pop Warner football every Saturday. We would leave right after that game, go up to Gainesville and go watch the Gators play. So when they didn't offer me, I mean, there should be some interest, Urban and Charlie Strong. Had a good run my senior year and started getting more interest from schools. But when they didn't offer me, I mean, my biggest offer probably outside of South Carolina was Northwestern. And I wasn't going to go up to Chicago and freeze my tail off. Wow. So, but I mean, but growing up a Gator, I knew the history of Coach Spurrier. I knew the offenses that he ran. My uncle Chris, obviously we talked a little bit about him, but he was close with Coach Spurrier. So that was a big piece probably on why I was recruited by South Carolina. I remember my dad kind of showing me on the message boards, like, oh, Coach Spurrier did Chris DiMarco a favor and offered his nephew a scholarship to go to South Carolina. Like, oh, well, what's another 6'1", 215-pound kid who runs 4.8? Like, where's he going to play? What's he going to do? Everybody. But I mean, I took that as motivation, just like I did being undrafted the NFL and all that stuff. So like I was out to go there and prove people wrong. And that's kind of, we'll talk about that more as we go. But yeah, I mean, the recruiting wasn't, I mean, I was going places to try to get recruited. People weren't coming to see me. And that was kind of the nature of our high school too. I mean, we were a big 6A school in the state of Florida, but didn't really have that much of a big history. I think the biggest school that any kid from Lake Brantley went to was UVA to play football. So
yeah,
I mean, it's Jordan Lipsey, Darrell Bush, and D Brown were kind of the big names. They're in the Brantley Hall of Fame. But those were the big names. Not much of we were more of a baseball school. Shoot, Brantley had Jason Veritek, Johnny Venters, Jamal Weeks, Ricky Weeks, Felipe Lopez, Johnny Gass, Nick Franklin. I mean, there's probably 15 guys that played in the major leagues from my high school.
That's pretty elite.
Yeah. That's probably why I didn't get called up my freshman year. He knew I wasn't going to be that good.
Well, I mean, it worked out pretty well. Obviously everybody knows the Carolina story. So now let's kind of bypass that and go into, all right, you graduate, you got everything ready to go. Now you're going to go try in the NFL. Walk us through that and kind of your mindset and obviously you're a pretty prepared guy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just a little bit. So I mean, just kind of go through that, and I almost want to ask you before that is that upbringing from from your grandfather, from your dad, from your uncle? Like, why are you so just like kind of organized? And have you always been like that?
Yeah, I mean, my dad is the oldest of three. We all basically were within. All the three brothers were like 5 miles away from each other growing up. So I had Uncle Chris, the pro golfer, my dad, and Uncle Rick. We did a lot of stuff as a family. Probably twice a month we did a dinner, and the dinner turned into who could throw a football the farthest, who could make the most free throws in a row, who could swim the pool the fastest, who could run around the neighborhood the fastest, who could drive the golf cart around the golf course the fastest. It was always some competitive
competition.
Piece. Yes, to our family. And all that came from my grandpa. My grandpa on my dad's side played basketball at St. Joe's up in Philly. I mean, grandpa was about 6'3", 220, 230 pounds. So a big guy and a good athlete, obviously very good hand-eye coordination. That all kind of ran through the three boys. And then I was the oldest grandson on that side. So it was like, hey, you're either going to catch up or you're going to get left behind. So, I mean, I jumped right in and try to compete with them. And I have a cool relationship with my Uncle Chris. Obviously, growing up, the nephew of a PGA Tour golfer. I mean, he played on Ryder Cups, President's Cup, finished second in the Master, won several PGA Tour events. But that was a really cool experience as a kid to see athletics at the highest level. Might not have been football, might not have been as physically demanding, but from a mental standpoint, like he was like the ultimate competitor. Like talk about a guy that went toe to toe with Tiger Woods and didn't back down with anybody. I mean, honestly, if he didn't talk so much shit to Tiger Woods in the Masters, he probably would have won. Like don't poke the bear, Uncle Chris.
Yeah.
But I mean, so from an organization standpoint, I think it was more like I like to be in control. And that's just like I mean, my dad's the same way. All three boys and that side are all the same way. So we're just wired that way. And then obviously when I went up to college and roomed with you, I was like, well, shit, somebody has to be in control.
I was saying,
you might have magnified that.
Probably. That's unbelievable. Oh man. But yeah, I mean, so then obviously you got that in your background, you have that in your blood, you know, walking through, like you graduate South Carolina, going in for your pro day, the combine, everything else, you know, what's your thought process?
Yeah. I mean, I hired, my agent was Joel Turner based out of Myrtle Beach. Just like the high school recruiting process, agents weren't blowing me up trying to sign me. I was like, I was a 6th to 7th round draft prospect, but more than likely undrafted. And, you know, I'd say got a really good vibe from Joel. He represented Ryan Suckup, a guy that I looked up to. Ryan gave me great feedback on Joel. So when I signed up with him, Joel wasn't the type of agent that was going to pay $30,000 for you to go train somewhere. Plus, my parents told me I wasn't allowed to do that. I needed to graduate and get my degree from South Carolina. And I had, since I got a double major, I had 21 credit hours, so 7 classes still to take that semester. So the last semester of my senior year. So I stayed at Carolina and did all the pro day training there at Carolina. Didn't get invited to the combine. So it was me, T Camp, 1 or 2 other guys that actually did our combine training at school with Coach Fitzgerald, Craig Fitzgerald, Joe Connolly, Tommy Schneider. There's a lot. I mean, they poured a lot of time and effort. We went 5 a.m. every single day before the guys at Carolina got there. Believe it or not, I had my best academic semester that semester. I took 7 classes, so 21 credit hours. I didn't have to, I got all my training done early in the morning, so I was done with football at 8 a.m. So I had all day. That last semester, I had like a 3.9 GPA.
Jeez.
So that's why I joke around with Kirsten, my wife, and I'm like, no wonder why college was so easy. No wonder that you were magna cum laude or whatever you were. Like you had all day. Like I had one semester I almost had a 4.0 of no football. But yeah, so I did my pro day training here at Carolina, and like Coach Fitzgerald and Joe Connolly, I mean, what they did and offered us was pivotal to our success. I mean, they held us accountable. It probably was worth a lot more than the $20,000 or $30,000 that I would have paid somewhere to go somewhere else to train. From a nutrition standpoint, recovery standpoint, accountability, they were touching base every afternoon, night. Have you done your modality work? So, I mean, that was huge. When
that is huge because I mean, you see how much some of these guys are spending on combine and pro day training. I see it down here in Tampa all the time, and it's in the 6 figures. Some of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, and I actually, I talked to Joel still to this day, and he's like, Pat, it's a whole different world. There's not many prospects like you out there. Even these guys that are undrafted are asking for a signing bonus to sign with an agent, and they're asking for all their training and all this stuff to be comped, not have to pay back a contract. Like usually, if I were to do that, it would have been, hey, it's $15,000 to sign. They're paying it up front, but that's coming out of the money that
your contract, right?
Yeah. Now it's like players are
now they don't do that.
No.
Wow.
So he's, that's been a piece, but I mean, but honestly, like big picture here, like if I didn't stay in Columbia, South Carolina and train, I would be married to my wife. I would have been in a full training down in Fort Lauderdale and all that stuff. So it was able to keep me, one, to get my degree, get a double degree from the University of South Carolina, Dartmouth Moore School. Get deeper in my relationship with Kirsten at that point. Stay close to the people that I knew were going to pour into me the most. And that's, I did film sessions with Jay Graham and Coach Spurrier. Like I was like keeping my mental sharp too from a football standpoint. And then trainer Clint and all the guys in the training room, doors were wide open. I wasn't in school. I mean, I wasn't on the team anymore, but they treated me like I was. So, I mean, that was a big piece. Obviously, I didn't test well enough to get drafted for pro day. But I mean, I did well enough to open some eyes. I had 3 contract offers. I mean, shoot, let's go into the 2011 draft. That was lockout year too. So,
oh, that's right. Yeah.
So went through, did pro day, draft happened, league gets shut down. There's no undrafted free agents were signed. No, nothing. So I'm working at a gym over in Lexington, South Carolina.
I was just about to ask you that. I remember
working
talking
at
to you
the
about
front
it.
desk. Like I met with Coach Spurrier a bunch. Like I don't know what's going to happen here. Like I think I'll get an opportunity, but like Mom's always told me to have A, B, and C plan. My plan was always A, football. I'll figure out the rest. But
right.
I guess it's time to start trying to figure it out because I don't know what's going to happen. And then so I was working there. And then when the lockout uplifted, my agent called me and there were 3 contract offers. I think the highest one was I think I got like $2,500 to sign out in San Diego. And I was like, I'll take the money. And Mike Tolbert was out there. My agent represented, and Tolbert was playing more of a running back position. So it was a decent opportunity for me to come in there and get a real look. And Jacob Hester was out there as well. And kind of was doing a dual, and I think it was his contract year. So he had the opportunity to get paid. So that kind of gives the younger guys, you're cheaper, maybe we'll keep you around our practice squad. And then next year elevate you when he goes and gets paid somewhere. So that was the thought process in signing out there. The Lord had different plans. 3rd day of training camp, I broke my foot on just a split zone, like full flow split zone play where I bent back to block the backside defensive end. I stuck my foot in the ground to go make a block I'd made 1,000 times. Just felt a pop in my foot. Me being as stubborn as I was, I didn't pull myself out. I didn't, report the injury. Finished practice. As I was jogging off the field, I was in so much pain, and the special teams coach was like, "Hey, what's going on with you? Like, you did all the drills full speed, and you look great doing the drills, but you look like shit." And I was like, "I dinged my foot at some point. I'm fine. I'll get some ice and get it taped up tomorrow. I'll be good to go." So I went in the training room and just asked for a bag of ice, and they're like, "What's going on?" Like, foot's bugging me. Just give me some ice. I'll figure it out. They're like, "Well, let's put you through a couple things to make sure it's okay." And they put me through one exercise, and they're like, "I think you broke your foot." I'm like, "There's no way I broke my foot. I just finished an NFL practice."
Right.
And they're like, well, you either broke it or you have a really bad sprain. We need to go get an MRI and see where it's at. And sure enough, I broke it. Being an undrafted free agent in the NFL with a $2,500 signing bonus, you're not high on the docket on an NFL ball club. So I remember 2 days, they rushed me through surgery. I had surgery like a day or 2 after the swelling was still, and the surgeons really screwed it up pretty big time. But I had surgery 2 days after. The day after surgery, I'm in the training room, in a bunch of pain, and one of the scouting guys rolls in and basically says, "Who's Pat DiMarco?" Didn't even know who I was. Give me your playbook. You're not going to meetings. You're not going to do rehab here. You're not going to have access to the weight room. You're not going to get tickets to games. We'll set you off-site with everything. Thank you for your time. And I was like, I called my agent. I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "They're going to put you on IR. You're a casualty. You're a cap hit at this point." Even though the cap hit was like very minimal. So I remember talking with him, and I called my parents, and I talked with Kirsten, and I was like, "Do I stay out here to do this, or do I go back to South Carolina and go be with people that care about me and want the best for me?" So the next day I was like, "Hey, you don't have to worry about all that stuff. Give me the next flight back. I'll be South Carolina. I'm going to go do my therapy with Clint Haggard and the staff at South Carolina. Dr. Guy is going to do all the imaging and kind of like run point on the rehab. And I can train with Coach Fitzgerald. And I can not just die out here in San Diego.
Right.
Care about." So came back and did that and was like, cool. Well, my opportunity in the NFL just got shut down before it even started. So then I was like, all right, Mom, I need to play A, B, and C at this point. So I mean, that was San Diego, and actually continuing on, I was 3 days away from taking the GRE. I had a conversation with Coach Berger. He was like, I want you to be a GA on our staff. You know, you have to take the GRE. And I was going to get my MBA from the business school and was lining all that stuff up. And 3 days before the test, my agent called me, Joel called me and said, what do you weigh? The Kansas City Chiefs, we had a fullback that was on the roster that didn't pass his physical for training camp, and they need a body. Or do you want to go out there? Do you want this opportunity? And I'm like, heck yeah, but I'm 217 pounds right now. They're like, you need to weigh 230 tomorrow. So I ate and drank everything in sight. Flew out the next morning out to Kansas City. I weighed in at 227. I gained 10 pounds overnight.
That's insane.
I had drank so much. Well, I peed like, they put me through the workout. First thing I had to do was run a 4-yard dash with 10 extra pints. That was fun. We did position work. I mean, I stopped to pee, I think, every 15 or 20 minutes. I was like, Joel called me right after the workout. He's like, how'd you do? I was like, I did really good, but I peed like, I stopped every drill to pee.
Pissing like a racehorse.
Yeah. But they ended up signing me and going through training camp there. That was in, what was the school? Division III school, but it was in the middle of
Was it Lindenwood?
No. I'll think of it, but it was in the middle of nowhere. Thankfully, Ryan Sucker was out there, the guy that that we played with. So familiar face. He did a good job of mentoring me during my year there. I was on the P squad for first 10 weeks, and then was activated the next 6 and played in 6 games out in Kansas City. I played well. Unfortunately, we went 2-14.
Slightly different Kansas City team now.
Yeah, no doubt. And about 50% of the team was released that offseason. I was one of them. And yeah, man, I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? Funny. So I did one full year out in Kansas City, and I actually went out there for OTAs going into my 3rd year, convinced Kirsten before we were engaged or married to move out there with. So we loaded up a big U-Haul, drove out there, rented a space, kind of were like, all right, this is going to happen. I'm out there for 2 weeks, and we trade. Me and her were at some country music concert. I forget who was playing, but my phone started blowing up these text messages. Joel, my agent, called me. The Chiefs traded Javier Arenas for Anthony Sherman. We now had like 5 fullbacks on the roster. It was me, another guy that was on the team the year before. They drafted a kid in the 7th round that year. They signed another free agent, and then they just traded for, there's 5 fullbacks on the roster. And I'm like, oh God, like this is not good. And I went in the next day and they released me. So I told Kirsten, it's like, sorry, I was wrong.
Just kidding.
So we moved back to Orlando, moved in with my parents, put all the stuff in storage. 2 weeks later, the Falcons called and signed me. This was middle of the way through OTAs that year, 2013. And they had drafted Brady Ewing in like the 4th or 5th rounds the year before. So it wasn't interesting. I mean, like I just wanted to keep the dream alive, so I was going to keep signing anywhere until somebody said, you can't do this anymore. So I signed in Atlanta. I was like, all right, Kirsten, let's go. Let's move to Atlanta. She's like, not happening. You make the football team first, and then I'll come up there and join you. So I went up there, went through OTAs, training camp, actually was starting majority of training camp. The Brady Ewing kid actually got hurt a shoulder or something like week 1 of training camp. So I was running with the ones all through. Last preseason game, he comes back, jumps right in front of me. I mean, you protect your assets in a draft class. So they ended up keeping him, but I played so well they kept me on the practice squad. He actually got hurt week 2 of the actual season. Then they activated me, and then I played for 4 years there after that. So crazy, but I mean, I was cut Chargers, Chiefs twice, because I was, if you don't make the initial roster, you get cut and put on practice squad. Then I signed back and played those 5 games. Then I got cut again. And then I signed in Atlanta, got cut in Atlanta to be on the practice squad. Then got signed. I got cut 4 times before I really had a true opportunity to play in the NFL. But it was always the kind of the idea of like, prove people wrong. I mean, being the 2-star prospect that everybody said was going to redshirt, gray shirt at South Carolina, I was like, F that. Like, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. I mean, my first 2 years in Atlanta were under Mike Smith. Dirk Cutter was the OC, who was the head coach down there in Tampa.
Yeah.
Afterward, a bunch. Scott Pioli was the GM down there my first 2 years. Ended up becoming a mentor. He's still a good friend of mine. He challenged me to learn the game on a deeper level. The guys on practice squad, Kansas City and in Atlanta, we had to prep like the scouts. Like, we basically put the scouting report together for the team, like in an essence of like developing you and teaching you how to watch tape, teaching you how to break down guys you're playing against. So that was a huge piece. Like, what were my strengths? What were my weaknesses? How could I attack guys? How could I put myself in a situation to win? So yeah, I mean, those 2 years in Atlanta, and then they offered me a 2-year contract, but my agent was like, they offered me a 2-year contract, but my agent wanted me to sign 1 year because he's just like, you need to become an undrafted free agent if you want to, or you need to become a unrestricted free agent. If you sign a 2-year deal, you'll be restricted. But they offered me like $75,000 to sign, and for a guy that was up and down roster and had no stability, I was like, I'll take the 75 guaranteed money. I haven't seen guaranteed money besides the $2,500 out in San Diego. So I signed the 2-year deal in Atlanta, and my agent was right, because in 2015 was named first team All-Pro, played out of my mind. It was first year Kyle Shanahan and that system was in Atlanta, and it fit my mold. I was a smaller fullback, was a smarter football player. Wasn't 250 and a bruiser, but I kind of knew how to play in space. I was the cut king, as you like to.
the cut king.
Yep. And I mean, the system just really worked for me. So, I was playing a Pro Bowl, was named All-Pro in 2015. Had some accolades off the field as well, for some philanthropic and leadership stuff. Really, career was starting to take off. Wish I would have signed the 1-year deal at that point. Signed a big contract, but ended up playing the second year of my contract in Atlanta. Atlanta is an incredible place, an incredible program. As you can see the jersey, I mean, near and dear. They actually gave me a salary bump that year after I played after Pro Bowl, All-Pro. They actually gave me like a $400,000 salary bump to make $1 million for the first time in my career. And they didn't have to do that. That was solely on them doing the right thing. Next year, I played well again. I mean, I think I was the Pro Bowl alternate, but we played in a Super Bowl, so that's pretty darn cool. Let's not really talk about it. Let's skip right through that.
I was about to say, probably.
We've talked about that enough from the scars. So, played in the Super Bowl that year, and then was an unrestricted free agent for the first time ever. Was coming off 2 really good years. When you're an unrestricted free agent, it's really your only chance to capitalize on the opportunity. When you're restricted, the team that you're with can put a tender on you of 5th round, 2nd round, 1st round. I was probably going to get a 5th or 6th round tender. And then a team, basically, if they wanted to sign me, they had to match the contract that the Falcons did, and then give away a draft pick for those rights. Nobody was going to do that for a fullback. So when I was going through unrestricted free agency for the first time, just lost a crushing Super Bowl. And
well, as our producer is texting us, he said, no, talk about the Super Bowl.
Dakota, thank you.
Dakota wants to hear it. I kind of do too, man. I mean, everybody knows, like, the Tom Brady side of stuff, but hearing it from your side would be pretty cool.
I mean, an incredible season. I mean, we were the number one scoring offense in the NFL. Dan Quinn was the head coach for the 2 years after Mike Smith. Kyle Shanahan was in there. Dan Quinn obviously was the defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks prior, was at the University of Florida. I mean, the GOAT when it comes from a head coach standpoint. I mean, like, players coached to the utmost, loved on you, motivated you, pushed you. You would, like everybody said, I'll run through a brick wall for him. I would, if he called me today, if 32 NFL teams called me and I was still in shape, I would probably say no to 31 of them. But if Dan Quinn called me, I was like, I could play a game or two for you. That's all I got. But I think we averaged like 36 points a game that year. We went 12-4, won the division. Thinking back, first playoff game that year, we had a first round bye, and then we had to play Seattle. Seattle came to us Seattle came to us. We beat them pretty handily. And then we were waiting to see what happened in the Green Bay-Dallas game, because Dallas was the 1 seed. We were the 2 seed. And when Jared Cook actually had the big sideline catch in that game, and then they kicked the game-winning field goal as time expired. So we were unsure if we were going to go to Dallas. If Dallas won, or if Green Bay was coming to us. If Green Bay won, and Green Bay ended up winning. So we hosted Green Bay and in Atlanta, and we beat them pretty handily. Must have been the championship. Was that the NFC or AFC championship? I don't know, but ended up going to the Super Bowl. Incredible experience. Like, we're doing this podcast, we both love football. We both love sports. Like, I don't shy away from, like, there's guys in the NFL that, like, you joke around, like, hey, do you want to come over, have a couple beers, I'll grill some steaks, we'll watch the football game. They're like, I don't watch football when I don't have to. Like, I watch football because I love watching football, just like I love watching all other sports. So the whole idea of this Super Bowl was incredible, other than the last last quarter and a half. But so we fly down there. Well, the week before, they put you through, like, media training, like Dakota's putting us through right now. They put you through, like, media training, because media day is an absolute zoo. Like, it is. The Super Bowl was in Houston, so we were at the what's the base? The Houston Astros. It was on their ballpark. There are 2,000 media members down there, anywhere from adults, websites, to Nickelodeon, to ESPN, to, like, it is all over the place. There's people holding up, like, adult film signs, like, hey, read this real quick, and you, like, read it in your head, and you're like, no, not a chance. So they kind of groom you, but that was the first day. But then every other day until 2 days before the Super Bowl, you have, like, 2 hours of media obligations each day. It's a zoo, and they pepper you with questions. But it was really cool. I was able to, dive into my faith on a deeper standpoint. I mean, just about every single day in those interviews. But going into the game, I mean, obviously, you think nothing of it. I've played in a bunch of big games. Like, this is just another football game. The lights I don't know if the lights are different or, like, what it is, but I mean, I walked out there and I was like butterflies in my stomach.
Yeah.
Like, it was a feeling that I had never really experienced before in the NFL, other than my very first game. And I was like, man, I kind of, like, pinch myself, national anthem played. all that. So it was cool. I mean, we started off on fire. We were up 20 or 28-3. I know, as everybody says it, I think there's 283 ring or diamonds on the freaking New England Patriots Super Bowl ring from that year.
So, but you got to think, man, you're up 28-3 with a quarter and a half left, playing against, Tom Brady. So it's never really safe. But at that time frame, you got to be like, holy shit, I'm about to be a damn Super Bowl champ.
Yes, but I mean, I wouldn't say I'm not a pessimist, but I'm not like an overly optimistic person. I mean, I was Chicken Little running around on the sideline of like, hey, like this game's not over. Like we gotta have a few first downs. If we don't score, let's at least flip the field, pin them deep, make them drive the field, make them take time. I guess that was like the coach in me. That was like I was playing that game in my head. And then when Matt got sacked, I think right after they scored, it was 28-10. And then Matt got sacked on like the second play of the drive. We were on our 25-yard line. They got the ball. They scored again. It was 27 or 28-17, like that. And I was like, oh shoot! Like, and it was beginning of the fourth quarter or into the third quarter. Like it happened like that. I mean, everybody wants a 2-score lead, and like you need a 2-score lead, but it chipped away fast. And then, I mean, it was. Tevin Coleman ended up getting hurt. Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman were our 2 running backs that year. Like, what a tandem. Like, he had thunder and lightning. Like, Tevin Coleman was just like a 4-2 guy. Like, could take the top off all day. Any opportunity, touch the ball, was like he could score from 80. And then Devontae was just a bruiser, downhill, like fundamentally sound. So Tevin went out, and oh, you're making me relive this, dude. You're such an asshole. And when Julio made the catch on the sideline, we were up 8. Julio made the catch on like the 27-yard line with a minute and change left. I immediately, like, my gut reaction was run on the field. We're going to run load power, kick a field goal, end the game. We're up 2 scores. Nothing you can do. So I'm sitting in the huddle. Matt comes in, and Matt's like, "Well, we got too many. And like, I'm like, we have too many. He's like, we're 11 personnel, Pat. And I remember running off the field, and I can't say it on here, but the stuff I was saying under my breath, and I said to my running backs coach, "What the F are we doing? Like, why are we in 11 personnel? Why are we not just load power? We pick up the first down, game's over. If not, we're kicking a 40-yard field goal, game's over." So we're in 11 personnel and run slant, or I think we run double slant, and Matt hits Muhammad Sanu to gain 8 yards. And we're like, oh, okay, 2nd and 2. That's great play. Holding. So 1st and 20, and then sack. And I think we ended up punting. It was like 4th and 39. And I'm the left wing, and they do corner roll. So there's 10 guys in the line of scrimmage to block this punt. And I'm just like, I turned into the cut king. I cut 3 people on that play. I was like, my guy's not blocking this punt. I don't care about coverage. I'm going to bite ankles. I'm going to do whatever it takes to not let this punt get blocked. So we punted to him and actually pinned him deep. I think they were at like 8-yard line or something like that, with a minute to go. And they march, ended up scoring a touchdown. 1 for 2. Tom Brady with the horseshoe up his behind. They win the coin toss. They get the ball. And they score again. James White, I think, had 2 or 3 touchdowns that game. So that's that. Appreciate it.
It is kind of cool hearing it from, like, your perspective, because I hear, Tom Brady was even talking about it, in his first couple NFL, color whatever analysts, and hearing his side of it compared to your side of it is obviously completely different.
Yeah. The locker room after the game, like, it was a good show.
I love Dakota texting us talking right now too. I love that.
Locker room was awful. I was the old guy in the running back room. Tevin was in his 2nd year. Devontae was in his 3rd year. Teron Ward, our other running back, was in his 2nd year. So I had to like be the stoic one. I like had to mask my emotions and not cry my face off and try to smash my head against the wall. Devin getting hurt. I remember he still had all his pads on, but he was in the shower room and was like punching the wall. And so I had to like run in there, grab him, console him, get him back on planet Earth. And Devontae Freeman's losing it over there. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And I just like start sobbing, crying, like, so yeah, that was fun. But let's exit from there. Let's go free agency. Finally had a chance to make some money. I'm a psycho and a manager and can't like let go of control. So I started training we got back Monday. I started training on Wednesday. I took one day off and I'm like, I'm a free agent on these visits. I don't know what untriggered free agency looks like. I'm going to be in the best shape of my life. So I start training 2 days after the Super Bowl. Free agency goes through, before free agency even hit, I was actually on, during free agency, or I guess the window that opens up before free agency, I was, my best friend, Chris Guido, was getting married, and we went on his bachelor party down in the Bahamas to actually Ike Crowfoot's property. Not much cell phone service down there. But we were, we were down. So down in the Bahamas, was going through free agency, and like, I think my cell phone bill was like $600. I just left it on, like roaming on all the time. My agent was calling me about it, and actually my dad's dad got sick. He had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Got diagnosed very early that year during the playoff run, and he made a turn for the worse. And I went to go on the bachelor party, and I was like, "Mom, Dad, let me know, keep me in the loop of what's going on with Grandpa. I'll fly home if I need to." It got bad, but I guess it was the week before. I remember like talking to him about, Buffalo's calling, Falcons are calling. I'm going to have plenty of opportunities. What's comfortable will be for me to stay in Atlanta, play in the same system, same head coach, live in the same house. Like, that's probably what I'm going to do, Grandpa, just because, like, I like structure. I like, and he challenged me. He's like, Pat, wherever you go, like, you're going to make an impact far beyond the football field. And so when all that happened, I got back, he passed. Then 2 days later, I signed with Buffalo. And like, me, like, that's very unlike me to do something. Like, the easy thing is stay in Buffalo, sign a good contract, or sign Atlanta.
It's Atlanta, yeah.
Contract. But I just felt compelled to go up to Buffalo and try something different, and glad I did. We had Weston was our first. Weston was one after the Super Bowl, and then so signed a 4-year contract up in Buffalo. Going through that process, when Atlanta offered me the first deal, they offered me a 3-year contract, X amount to sign. It was like about the first year was guaranteed, and after that it wasn't. Buffalo called my agent and said, "What do we need to pay Pat DiMarco to come up here to Buffalo?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, this is a great opportunity, but if there's 32 teams in the NFL, Buffalo's in the 30s on places. Buffalo's probably the 39th team of the 32 teams that I wanted to be fell for, just because of the weather and all the misery, and they weren't very good. But kind of compelled by my grandpa to go challenge myself and do something different and make the impact. Signed up in Buffalo. First thing I bought with my signing bonus was a winter coat. Did not have those, being from Florida and living in Georgia. Went up to Buffalo first year. We made the playoffs for the first time in 17 years in Buffalo. Wasn't pretty. We weren't I think we went 9-7. This light keeps flicking on and off. Signed up there. I remember conversation with Sean McDermott, who's still the head coach there, he might have said this to everybody, but he called me up to his office one day, like 5th or 6th week in my first season up in Buffalo. And he's like, dude, I knew you were an incredible player because you played for the Atlanta Falcons when I was in DC and with the Carolina Panthers for 4 years. It's like, I knew you were an incredible player, but I knew you were an incredible person. I didn't know the leader that you were. It's like, I didn't know like how outspoken you were. I didn't know how much you push people. Like you aren't the crazy rah-rah guy, but like you're the lead by example and everybody kind of just follows suit. But he told me, like I said, he probably told this to every guy in that free agency class. It's like, you're my favorite free agent that I signed in this free agency class. Me along with a bunch of the other guys outlasted me, so he probably likes them more now. But yeah, I mean, up in Buffalo, Buffalo blessed us with 2 kids. Sutton and Coco were both conceived while we were in Buffalo. Coco was born in Atlanta. They both were born in Atlanta. Coco came right after my last year in Buffalo. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit about what finished football for me. I had a bunch of stingers throughout my career. Stingers are kind of like nerve damage, and a lot of it was on my right side, right neck. My last year, 2020, this was COVID. This was negotiate new CBA. A part of me wanted to retire after the 2019 season. My body was beat up. I was, Kirsten was pregnant with Coco, our third. But, there's no quitting me. So I was like, I want to retire, but man, let's see what I got. So started training, COVID hit. We were negotiating the CBA guidelines to be able to play all the new COVID guidelines. I was the PA rep for the Bills. So I was on hours and hours of calls every week to try to make sure the league was going to happen and make sure the CBA got negotiated. So I went up to Buffalo, middle of COVID, getting swabbed every hour, it seemed like, living in a hotel, by myself in a hotel that was like going through it. It was absolutely awful. But third day, I think, of training camp that year, I go to hit AJ Klein. We're running outside zone to the right, 18-week. And then I go to block AJ Klein, and he made a great block, but my neck was like completely exposed, and he just like right in the neck. And I had the worst pain that I've ever experienced in my life. I had a nerve go all the way down my right side. Couldn't feel my hand, couldn't feel my arm. Went into the training room, had no strength in my arm. They did pictures. They're like, we don't see anything structurally wrong, but obviously you have no feeling in your hand. So that was awful. Went through about 6 weeks up there in training camp of not doing any football. I was in a neck brace. Finally, they said the only way this is going to get better is if you get an epidural shot in your neck. So I got an epidural shot in my neck. Basically, fought with. I negotiated my own terms on this part, but I was like, Kirsten's pregnant with Coco. I'm not paralyzed, but I feel like I'm paralyzed in a freaking neck brace. Can I please go back to Atlanta and live with my family while I go through this? So they gave me an injury settlement, or offered me an injury settlement. Signed it, and basically was done playing. And then moved back to Atlanta, and then Coco was born, and was a crazy end to a pretty cool 10-year story. I mean, undrafted free agent, cut a bunch of times, hit the pinnacle highs, Pro Bowl, Super Bowl, and then career, just injury, shut it off.
But that's how it happens, though.
Undrafted free agent.
Do what?
So the heck of a run for an undrafted free agent. I mean,
hell
when you
yeah.
look at, somebody had the stat of like looking at Pro Bowls, and the I want to say 50% of Pro Bowlers are 7th round undrafted free agents. Like, it's not the first rounders, second rounders. There's obviously some of them, but it's primarily those guys that had a chip on their shoulder, continued to fight, continued to push, and overcame odds and train their ass off. So pretty cool.
Yeah. No, and that's kind of like, the moral of the story that I'm at least hearing is, just having that chip on your shoulder, being the ultra competitor, kind of doing things the structured the right way. It obviously paid off, man. And, I'm fortunate enough to have room to do and, doing this podcast with you. I mean, you can definitely be a pain in the ass, but I know I can also be a pain in the ass. So it works out well.
It's the brotherly love. It's like we hate each other at times, but we love each other all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, man, and I'll tell you what, man, I know I've told you this a bunch of times, but when you reached out to me and you were like, hey man, I think we should do a podcast. I was like, yeah, I've been wanting to do it for a while. So I'm glad that, you reached out and we're doing it, man. Here we are, we're doing it.
Yeah. And I mean, shoot, we read through the numbers we're having. Like, this is doing well. It's performing probably more than you and I thought. I mean, we knew it was going to be cool and fun, and we knew we were going to enjoy it, but there's always like what's going to happen with the fans and the engagement. And I mean, just from 2 weeks ago when you were up here, like all the people that come up to us, and all the people, I mean, I live here in Columbia, the amount of people that tell me they listen to the show and love the show and tell me what my favorite episode was, it's been really cool. And like JB and even Dakota, a lot of people have been like, you guys work really well together. Like, you're the structure guy, Steven's the chaos guy. So we balance each other well, but I mean, we're both learning so much. Like, this is like, it's a lot more work than either of us ever thought. But
as Dakota said, the hardest part is tracking guys down.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot to all you guys that have screwed us up a little bit.
Hey,
we'll come find
you. It's the brotherly love. It's the love-hate relationship. Yeah. We're going to love recording with them when we record with them, because the episodes are going to be awesome based on the prep work that we've done and everything. But yeah, it is a beast tracking people down and making sure people show up on time. It's like having young kids.
For sure. Yeah, man, this has been awesome, dude.
No, and don't worry, I'm going to return the favor. This is just part one of this. I'm going to put you through your tear jerkers and all that stuff too that you put me through.
All right, beautiful,
pretty cool. I mean, it's good as a man. Like, we don't ever really get vulnerable and show our weaknesses. Like, especially football players, you always brace up and you push back, and nothing phases me. But dude, we go through so much. Like, athletes go through so much, ups and downs of life. I guess the chaos of not knowing what's next, expectations for yourself, coaches' expectations for you. Am I exceeding them? Am I not meeting them? There's just a lot. So it's cool to kind of not break that barrier, but it's okay to be vulnerable, and kind of share your heart and tell your story. I've done it a bunch. I mean, I don't do it all the time, but when I do, it's very refreshing to get that stuff that I've held in for so long off my chest.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man. You made a good point, man. We are, obviously we're not athletes anymore, but at one point we were. And, these people that have never played the sport, never played it at a higher level, to hear them kind of like talk trash to the TV or, at the stadium, it's like, dude, feel free to come over here and take a 5-step drop and read the coverage and throw a good ball, or try to make a cut block on a Jasper Brinkley, or Brandon Spikes.
That hurts.
Good luck,
Yeah.
And then you obviously got the off the field stuff, which sometimes you just got to let loose.
You did that.
I didn't want to. I had to. I needed to deal with Coach Spurrier.
Well, I mean, dude, and I needed to too. Like, I was going back to high school. Like, I was the kid that never wanted to do anything wrong to disappoint mom and dad. Like, I was kind of a goody two shoes. I mean, at points I still am, but when I got to college, I needed you and I needed like chaos, because everything was like pretty much like I knew what I needed to do to get what I wanted to get. And I had the work ethic to go get it, but like I needed to, the little hair that I have, let my hair down a little bit.
Let your hair down.
And I mean, I got that so bad in my system. Like, that way, when I got to the NFL, it was time to like we weren't madmen in college. Like we had a good time, but we weren't going out the day before games. We weren't putting ourselves or our teammates at risk.
Contrary to what everybody thinks, man. Everybody thinks that we're going out the night before the game. It's like, what are you talking about?
We were normal college kids that had a good time in a freaking awesome college town in Columbia, South Carolina. And we're surrounded by great people, and people that believed in us and supported us. But I mean, I needed you, you needed me. It was just like this podcast. We yin and yang off each other. No, I'm super grateful for you, and you know, put me through this little self-reflection.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will, I guess it's my turn next time, huh?
Yeah, we get your ass.
I'm going to have a beer for that one, I can tell you that.
No,
all right, man, well, this is fun.
Yeah, hopefully everybody enjoys this. And who knows when this will air. Could be next week, could be 5 months from now. We'll see.